Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Green Arrow FPL podcast from the award-winning Fantasy Football Hub as we look ahead to 6 days of football in 7 days in the shape of game weeks 13 and 14. My name is Fergie, and here as usual with Rich Clarke. But I've got a different question for you to normally, Rich. What have Cameron Archer, Mikhail Antonio, and Rasmus Haaland all got in common?
Let me have a guess. Have they all scored more points than Erling Haaland in the last 6 game weeks?
Oh my goodness, mate. They have all scored more FPL points than Erling Haaland in the last 6 game weeks. That is absolutely, that is exactly what it is, mate. That is incredible. Well played, sir.
They'll think I knew the answer to that.
Well played, sir. Yeah, great to have you on, Rich. Know you've had a tough week, a tough weekend. How are you, and what colour was your arrow in game week 12? Shall I crank up the orchestra first?
I think just put the orchestra on in the background. Yes, mate. I've got a bit of a shaggy dog story to tell about my decision making process. I've had better weeks, that's for sure. Been looking at desperation scales on the internet, looking at adjectives like desperate, desolate, humiliation. Can't believe I've been so stupid. But anyway, I was all set to do the Salah move off Haaland last week. I think my content suggested as such, and the team reveals, etc. But after we podded, I received a few encouraging messages from members of the community to stick to my guns and maybe play Haaland one more time against Spurs, and perhaps put the captaincy armband on him when Tottenham's central defence was
decimated.
Defence was not playing. So in the end, and actually that's not the end of it. I waited to see what was happening with Trent, because I thought if he's injured, I'll take him out, and that can yield me a lot of cash. And then suddenly, with my 3 free transfers on Friday night, I saw that I could get to Salah and keep Haaland. There was only one way to do it, and that was to sell Trent, use the money I had in the bank, and then do a bit of a risky transfer and sell Cunha down to a 4.5 dud, and that would give me the exact money to do Brennan Johnson all the way up to Salah, and then I'd have Haaland and Salah and Palmer, and that was like how I could get there, which I hadn't seen from days before. I ran that by you, I think, on maybe Saturday morning or
Friday evening, I think it was.
I think you came back to me. You said, "I think I'd go for it, mate. I think it's probably a good idea." And then Adam, who's in our...
Hang on, I'm not from Bristol, but carry on.
Adam goes, I think I like the Bruno move. I like the Lewis Hall and Bruno move. I think the fixtures are a bit rough for Salah after City as well. I think I'd prefer that. So anyway, I decided after a few of the messages to the community that people said, what would the old Rich do? Would he chase after Salah? And someone else said, I implore you with that Tottenham central defence to go for Haaland as your captain. James, I think from Planet FPL, probably the most knowledgeable Tottenham fan in the FPL community, he said, Captain Haaland this weekend. And look at what happened.
Mate, this
4-0 to Tottenham.
4-0 to Tottenham. What a match. I'm trying to think back, Rich. I can't think of a time, and I'm probably missing something fairly obvious, that the reigning champions lost 4-0 at home. Are you able to think of a time in living memory when, the reigning champions lost 4-0 at home? I just can't. I can
remember when Manchester United lost 5 to Newcastle once, when they were humiliated once. You remember that time? There was a big game when Kevin Keegan was the manager, and United were at their peak, and they lost 5-0 to Newcastle. But I think that was an away game. That wasn't a home game. You don't normally get the champions losing like that in such a heavily backed game.
Tough week, mate. And for you and all Haaland, we're going to touch on the Haaland versus Salah thing for one final time in a touch. But yeah, just a couple of other violin moments. We've got a couple in the chat, actually. The Marky boy took out Madison. Oh, jeez. Oh, my God. Took out Madison. Porro. That's all 30 points there. And a 4 million non-playing defender for Colwill, Canate and Gordon. Only a 28-point swing. That is tough. Tough going. That is really, really tough going. Sam Williams says, if I was completely lost and saw one of the Green Arrow presenters smiling at me with Google Maps open on their phone, I still wouldn't ask for directions. Thank you, Sam. I really appreciate that. And we also had another violin moment off Ollie Poole, who was the editor here at the Hub, who proudly picked up the FCA, which we'll touch on now. But he says, I was all set to bring in Saka and Aït-Nouri as part of my long-term plan to get 3 pre's, but got spooked by Saka's questionable fitness status. I was instead drawn to the prime fixtures for both Fernandes and Isaac and brought them both in. Will Colwill as a make-weight for Alexander-Arnold, Johnson and Wood, and a -4 hit. Colwill lost his clean sheet and the other 2 stars blanked for a net -5. But he also ended up, mate, there's no excuse for this. It made him make a decision whether to play Calvert-Lewin or Cunha. Who do you think he started out of the two?
He didn't start
He started Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Old plan, 80 points. Actual plan, 51 points after the hit.
Right.
Unbelievable. Yeah, a crazy week. And a tough one for you, Rich.
Yeah, he cheered me up already, though, mate. He cheered me up already. Yeah, one of the toughest in 19 years of playing. So let's get into December and face forward, mate. I think for me, I think that's the best way to deal with it.
Let's do 43 for you. I had 55, but mate, how lucky is this? It's crazy. I had Flecker 9, Gabriel 6. Every other player blanked on my team apart from Salah captain, and that Salah captain got me a green arrow. Only a very small one, but yeah, just 26 points by himself, and then just Flecken and Gabriel. So just shows how heavily weighted sometimes the captaincy this is. It's absolutely crazy. I've got a ChatGPT poem about my week this week. 3 returned, the rest fell flat. Flecken's gloves and Gabriel's stat. Salah's armband saved the day, while others wandered far astray. Haaland blanked, his spark grew dim. Palmer, new, brought naught but whim. Yet through the haze a light was seen, a green arrow glows, faint but keen. In FPL's dance we rise, we fall, but hope endures, we play it all. I dread to think what it would have done for yours, Rich, but
It would be X-rated, I think, mate.
X-rated. But spoiler alert, you did say before we went on live, you've made transfers already this week. Should we save it for later, or
yeah, we'll save it for later.
We'll save it for later.
Yeah, they're already done.
Right, just before we look ahead then, we just wanted to say thank you all so much to all our followers, supporters, watchers and listeners, members, everyone who's helped Fantasy Football Hub scoop the top prize at the Football Content Awards for Best Fantasy Football Organisation. It was an incredible evening, completely unexpected, I must say, but it was fantastic for Ollie Poole, our editor, and the rest of us to be able to go up on stage and collect that award. We've had a fantastic few years, and this is the cherry on top, so thank you all so much. We really, really do appreciate all your support. We've currently got a Green Friday offer on at present. If you haven't seen it, came in last week. If you're not a Hub member, I mean, really? If you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, you can now do so for a full 30-day absolutely free trial, which covers 5 game weeks. If you do it now before the weekend, you get game week, what was it, 13, 14, 15, 16 and 17. You can try it out for absolutely free before you decide whether you want to stay on as a paying member. This includes our My Team features. It included recommended transfers, predicted points through AI, dedicated WhatsApp groups for pro members, and so much more. I don't have time to go through it all. Don't forget, it's all on our fantastic FFH app too. An absolute no-brainer if you want to do well at FPL. So free for 30 days. Give it a go. The award-winning Fantasy Football Hub. Top link in the description below. You will not be disappointed, we promise. Rich, we've got 3 games in a week. It's that period of the season where it all starts to kick off. It's absolutely superb. Right at the top of the ticker for the next 3 games, Aston Villa, they're away to Chelsea, but then they get back-to-back home games against Brentford and Southampton. Leicester, their fixtures turn now, away to Brentford, home to West Ham, home to Brighton. West Ham's are decent as well. Brentford starts okay, and then they go into this little rough patch of fixtures. It's going to be interesting what we do with Mbuemo and Vissa in a week or two. Right down the bottom, Man City, away to Liverpool this week, home to Forest, away to Palace. Southampton, Newcastle, and Liverpool also down the bottom. So, Adam was talking about the fixtures, but yeah, how do you see the landscape this next, week or 10
all
days,
the good
mate?
teams, all the big teams are, all in the bottom half of that table, aren't they now? If you just take a lens over the next 3 days or next 3 games, 3 games over 8 days, it's going to be incredibly hectic. That's why we're doing a double up on this episode, because we just don't have time to do another green arrow before the next set of fixtures. But yeah, I mean, I think Brighton, if you were to extend that ticker out, they probably have the best fixtures now
for the next
running up to Christmas and into the new year. But you'll still see that despite a lot of people maybe looking at coming off Mbemo and maybe other Brentford assets that they own, they still rank 4th on that ticker for the next three games. So yeah, they've got a tough game in game week 14, but they have 2 home games, and I think the teams at the top here have 2 home games out of 3 predominantly. So I'm not too worried about losing Mbemo. I think if you're the issue with many midfields is that people are trying to cram all the premiums into the midfield and maybe trying to run with a Salah, Palmer, Saka combination, which doesn't leave many edge pieces around. If you've got Rodgers in there, or as your 5th mid, who's your 4th mid going to be? And people maybe want to go for, or had been wanting to go for, a Bruno Fernandes in that spot. So yeah, there's flexibility around that mid spot, but I still like Mbemo. I certainly like him this week. And yeah, there's some interesting options to invest in there that we wouldn't perhaps normally be looking at if you just look at those fixtures.
Yeah, he's looking at the next few. Again, we'll touch on Haaland next, because I think his ownership is still like, is it 50% still? Like half the game still
55. It's just, I think it's just about to flip with Salah on most owned player. I think they're very close now.
We'll touch on that now. Well, actually, let's touch on that now, because it's obviously a mega important pivot point for those who are doing it, thinking of doing it. I was talking instantly with Will from the Hub this morning. He's already planning how to get Haaland back. Not now this week or the week after, but he knows from game week 18 or so he's going to want him back, and he's already started to kind of think about that. Just 2 interesting tidbits I found around this whole Haaland and Salah thing. Rich, you mentioned Praz FPL proud to tweet last night, I think it was, absolutely superb. Haaland 2 goals, Salah pen miss. Obviously talking about the Champions League this week. If the last night's Champions League nights in context of the last 3 game weeks have taught people about variance, there is no hope. And you made a point, Rich. You want to repeat it about the number of goals Haaland has scored in the last 7 days?
Well, yeah, he scored 5 goals either side of the Tottenham game when he was captained by, me and many others. So yeah, it's unbelievable. There's nothing wrong with the statistical opportunity that there is with Haaland. He's a lot of money, and I think people are just thinking the recency bias around his actual returns is such that it forces us to move that money out. And I'm no different. I'm just very, very late doing it.
We asked a question 4 weeks ago about time to pass the torch, and that's why I've put it as part 2 this time. So I know you're kind of over, you're over it, Rich. I mean, it's been a tough month for you. Do you think do you think completely objectively it feels for you as much as an emotional decision as anything else, because you just can't cope on these weekends watching Haaland blank and Salah bloody thing completely objectively?
Last week I'd had enough and had my head turned, so to speak, and decided to give it one more week and play that variance, but it got slapped even more. So I just think you can't ignore the form of Salah. It can't just be down to overperformance against expected points. He's just an amazing human being and an amazing player that every time you watch him play, he'll get a couple of chances and he'll put them away. And that's how he seems to play. And the amount of penalties Liverpool get as well is extraordinary, isn't it? He's had about 4 or 5 penalties already this season and continue to get them. And I just can't believe it. I can't recall one single decision or one single player doing so much damage through not owning him. I think he's had, is it 9 or 10 double-digit hauls? I can't remember. I think it's 9 now, isn't it, out of 12 weeks? And the other one was a 9. He got 9 one of the other weeks. So I haven't had any of them. So if you add them up, I mean, that's about 100 points.
Yeah.
And I know I've owned other players, and it's my decision, and I've got to own it, etc., etc. But that, I mean, that's a devastating difference between owning one player and another. And as you said at the beginning, half jokingly, these 3 noddy players that we don't even think about, Cameron Archer, etc., have scored more points than Haaland since we wildcarded. So it's just extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary.
And I think the thing to back up the Haaland to Salah thing even more is there are just some incredible forward options. I mean, normally the forward spots in FPL, if you took Haaland and Kane out over the last few years, have been quite barren, haven't they, really? I mean, there's always been like 1, maybe 2 okay-ish options over the last sort of 5 years, but this year there's like 5 or 6 fantastic options, and they just seem to be scoring every week, like the Wood, Cunha, Isak. I know he blanked this week, but he nearly scored after 4 minutes. João Pedro, you've just got all these fantastic, Vissa, list just goes on and on of fantastic options as well. You can just down and save 7-8 million and plug it plug it into your Palms and your Sakas. So yeah, it's probably time to go for Haaland, I think, isn't it? Unless I mean, I've got him still. I think I'm going to sell him this week, but yeah, it's just crazy. Last stat for you, Rich. So who do you think out of Salah and Haaland has had the highest expected points for the last 4 game weeks based on their performance?
Out of the 2 unexpected points,
expected points is Haaland.
Yeah.
Who do you think has had the highest expected points in the whole of FPL in the last 4 game weeks?
It's not still Haaland, is it?
Erling Haaland has had the highest expected points of the last 4, 5, and 6 game weeks. It's only 3 game weeks back where Salah overtook him in terms of performance, but even that stat, absolutely insane. Just goes to show the variance.
I'm no expert on this, and so, but when we were showing that table, and I did reuse it actually in another piece of content, it went. An analytically, inclined player or manager will point out that that's a very small window to, assess a variance on. But we were assessing it on a 4-week window last week, and then we got another week of it. So now it's 5 weeks, and now when does it become significant? Then I mean, it's pretty significant what you just said, isn't it? A 6-week window. Since most people played their wild card. The guy is the most. How many players in the game? 600.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
It's like mad, absolutely mad. He's the highest expected points, and I think if you look down, he's not had more than 6 points in any game since game week 6.
Crazy. He got the 1 goal, didn't he, in the one match, I think. But yeah, I think it is. I think last time we were, a bit on the fence about whether it's time to pass the torch. But the fact now that Palmer's fixtures are really good, Saka's got really good fixtures, Salah's just in the absolute form of his life, absolutely ridiculous. Between him and Palmer, they've got incredible captaincy for the next, 4, 5, 6 weeks. Haaland from 18 onwards, but even then, I don't know.
Yeah, but there's so much else wrong with City, isn't there? And so much wrong, with their, even their confidence, even Pep's confidence is starting to ebb away. He's scratching his head, scratching his nose, etc., in anger, and it's affecting him, what's going on. So now they're coming up against Liverpool. Are they really going to, they're capable of winning that game, but how long is this going to continue? I don't think we can start thinking, we're all going to pile back into Haaland in a few weeks' time when their fixtures improve. I don't think you need to.
My thing was thinking about Haaland back is for holding on to him has always been, how do I get him back? I need him back. I need him back. I'm just not sure we need him back, mate. I just don't think. I think there's enough captaincy options elsewhere, and what it does for the rest of your team as well in terms of beefs up your whole. I mean, you can have. We'll look at the Hub AI wildcard team in a little bit for game week 13. Bang in defense, bang in midfield, banging up front. It just hasn't got Haaland. It's just such a strong squad. It's absolutely crazy the team you can get. As lots of our watchers and listeners and lots of FPL managers know who took him out. But yeah, it's crazy time. looking at forward then to transfer targets, Rich, for the next few weeks. You've got a couple of defenders in here. I'm a bit thin in defence this week, so I'm keen to hear about these, and a few forwards as well. So who's top of the shopping list for you this week?
I mean, we've all been neglecting our defences a little bit. I think, particularly maybe since wildcarding a few weeks ago, we put a sort of minimal transfer strategy in place on defenders. But some of those fixture runs are starting to run out now for the likes of the Mikalenkos. The Rico Lewis experiment's never really worked, has it? He keeps returning a naught pointer every week. So there's a lot of holes, and we've got a Gabriel flagged at the moment. So who knows what Arteta's going to tell us tomorrow? Probably nothing or a bunch of lies. So yeah, making a defender move to just give yourself a bit more bench strength looks like a nice thing to do over the next coming weeks. So I think Brighton, we pointed out, have some very nice fixtures starting tomorrow night against Southampton. So at the moment, Van Hecke seems to be probably the safest option. It's not the most exciting of options. You're not necessarily going to be getting attacking returns there with that or huge bonus, but he's going to play every game. And at this time of year, that's what you want in a defender. Similarly, Colwill, I think that is on the slide. Those players are just going to play 90 minutes, first name on the team sheet, and that's what you want. You don't want a player who's injury prone or rotatable or that kind of stuff. So we've got a couple of defender options there, probably with the best runs of fixtures going into the New Year period. And then on the other side, we've got a couple of attacking options. Now, obviously, many people watching or listening will already have Matheus Cunha in their teams, and they may already have Bukayo Saka either, but you haven't got Cunha at the moment, and neither of us have got Saka at the moment, have we? So they've been, Cunha's ownership is still, I think, under 20%. So his form has been absolutely electric. So he's the one shining light in my team actually in recent weeks. He's just, and I almost sold him last week.
The Cunha to Jimenez. So I had the dilemma. I think it was 4 game weeks ago of whether to go for Cunha or Jimenez. I had the choice, and I went with Jimenez. And in that time, I think Cunha, I want to say, has scored about 35 points, and Jimenez has scored 11.
37, I think it is.
And Jimenez has scored 11. It's just really painful. Do you see Jimenez's miss last week when he hit the bar from 2 yards out? I don't know if you've seen that. Oh my goodness me!
I may not have done.
Oh, it hurts. And that every Cunha one for me, not as bad as yours, Rich. I appreciate watching Salah do it, but Cunha, the 2 goals and the return, it was just like every time it was like, it's the one you could have gone for. The one I had him in my hand, and I went for Jimenez, who since I brought him in has got 1 assist in 4 games. And can't hit a barn door and keeps being dragged off after 75 minutes as well. It's really frustrating. But Cunha, what a footballer.
Wolves have definitely turned it around with their fixtures, which we thought they might. 1-2 on the bounce, and now they play Bournemouth, is it tomorrow, without or there's a weekend without
Bournemouth,
Semenyo?
That's it.
So
it is,
yeah, good chance to beat Bournemouth make it 3 in a row. So yeah, really like Cunha, and would recommend him, especially if you've got Haaland and you haven't got Cunha. He's a good person to go on to and generate a lot of funding. And then Saka is probably going to be a lot of people's third premium coming in last week, this week, or the week after, depending on what other fires you've got to put out. Clearly I could have, would have, should have gone for him over Fernandes last week, but I just decided to play that new manager bounce thing with the Ipswich game and the Everton game to come. I'm not sure it's worth it now. They didn't play.
They
very
did
well,
look good.
did they,
I think.
United?
I think we said last week, Rich, that game week 11 was the time to bring in Bruno. It was that Leicester home game was the real one. Ipswich away, I think, was always going to be quite tough personally, because Ipswich have massively improved. Everton are just so defensive that they just don't concede, do they? So I think the Bruno move was a game week 11 move. I don't think I would doing it now. And the fixtures after Everton, I think, for United get really tough, don't they? So
they get tough again. So 2 weeks on Bruno, and then he'll be off for Saka hopefully next week for me, and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's really the sort of 5. I think we could have had maybe Maddison on there if you fancy a bit of a differential.
Yeah, I'm not sure on Maddison. I'm not sure whether he only played in that position last week because it was very specific against Man City. Don't get me wrong, he was fan. I love Maddison especially as a Spurs fan. I just think they'll share minutes. He'll share minutes with Johnson, Kulusevski, Sarr, Bissouma. He plays in kind of a variety of different roles around that 6, 8, 10 sort of position. So while I think he's a fantastic player. He's one of those players you look at the team sheet and you wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't starting, and you don't want that. So
no,
personally, I think though Kulusevski, I mean, his performance against Man City again, it kind of went under the radar a bit because Maddison was so good as well, but Kulusevski is some footballer. I mean, he switched positions this year, and he has been insane. I don't know if you saw the fourth goal, Rich, the final goal for Brennan Johnson. But Kulusevski,
the one where Werner overtook Walker.
Yeah, but it was all Kulusevski all the way through. Passed it to, I think he ended up passing it to Werner maybe, and then Werner just skipped past Kyle Walker.
On the afterburners.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Have you not mentioned him yet? I don't think, but João Pedro right in the middle of that. Obviously, he was my punt again last week. Rich, my punts are on fire, but he looks good. My pants are on fire. My punts are on fire as well. Yeah. Another goal and assist in a tough game last week, I thought, away. They got Southampton at home this week, and their run of fixtures is absolutely superb. So João Pedro, he's gone up now. He's actually risen 5.6 million. He's gone up in price. He's 5.4.
He may go up tonight, fellas. If you're thinking of buying, I think he's close to a rise. So yeah, he looks like. And when they've got Southampton at home, he looks so obvious.
Some player, mate. It's going to be interesting captaincy this week. I think we'll talk a bit about the captaincy obviously when we get to it a bit later on in the pod. But there's some superb home fixtures this week. And Buemo, Leicester at home. João Pedro, Southampton at home. Obviously, Salah's got Haaland at home, and there's another cut. You just think, wow, there's a real opportunity. Palmer as well. There's some real opportunity this week to be a bit different. It's going to be interesting. We'll talk about that in a bit. Just looking at expected points for the next 4 game weeks. Salah is top, unsurprisingly, 29.9. Do you know what, Rich? I didn't realise he's 13.1 million now. Salah, he has flown up in price. So he's 29.9. Haaland is still there, 29.2. So his underlying data is just absolutely ridiculous. Palmer is up there, 29. Saka, we've mentioned, is going to be hard to get him in. Well, it's impossible to get him in, I think, if you haven't got if you've got Haaland and Salah and Palmer. But Saka looks really good. Scored again, a goal and assist in Champions League again last night. Son, I think we've reduced his numbers slightly since we did this. He's not quite fit, is he? So we had him as like 88, 90 minutes, but I think we've reduced down to 75, so he'll probably drop in this chart. Isak, he had some like 0.74 XG on Monday night, unlucky not to score, just a whisker offside. In the 4th minute, that would have made it a different game. So I think if you've got Isak, absolutely fine to hold.
You've got to give him a bit longer.
Yeah, definitely. Though it was...
I mean, the amazing how quickly the sort of... The mood can cool on a player, isn't it? One game where he doesn't return and no one's talking about him anymore.
It's mad. If he'd have just been a half a yard earlier
for Haaland last week,
I completely agree.
It's like now he's like it's like a tumbleweed coming through. No one's talking about him at all, and it's like And what did Lewis Hall, the defender that everyone was buying last week, now looks like one of the worst decisions you could possibly make because he's conceded 2 goals at home.
Yeah. They'll be fine.
Amazing how quickly it changes.
Isak is in there. Cunha, Wood. So Wood's got a nice game. Home to Ipswich this week. I'll probably be selling him next week, I think. A weird non-start last weekend. Maybe just a rest for him ahead of this period. Maybe a rest for him, potentially. I don't know, but he's been fantastic. I'm hoping he plays against Ipswich this week. I imagine he does, especially since the 1 year blanked. Watkins, 22. Foden is still there somehow. He's getting the minutes. I think he's played 90 in the last, I want to say, 4 games for Man City, so he's still there. Solanke, Jackson, Visser, and then we go down the list a bit more there. But they are the top predicted points. The top is the top predicted defender. So Trent, again, we've reduced his. I think FPL have got him as 100% fit now. We've reduced it down manually ourselves to 75 just because we don't expect him to come back and play 90. I think he was he an unused sub last night, I think? Or actually,
he was on the bench.
He was on the bench.
But I think Bradley may be injured now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I just can't see Trent going from injured to 90 personally. He may, but they may play Trent 65, 70 and bring Gomez in potentially. Looks like Kanate is going to be okay because he was injured last night as well. But yeah, just so many options, as we say. Especially the forward options are insane. Like there's after the 4 premium mids of Salah, Palmer, Saka, and Son, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of the next 9 players for top predicted points are all forwards. I mentioned those forwards earlier, that short list of 4 or 5. I didn't mention Watkins, Solanke, Jackson. I mean, these are all fantastic options. They really are.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane. It's brilliant season. Like I say, as much as our ranks are suffering, I'm still enjoying the season.
Better second half. I'm still enjoying the challenge of it. It just gets, I'd just like to have one good week, Fergie. Like,
You'll have one this week, mate. You'll have one.
The last good week was game week 38.
Well, we've got 3 weeks now. 3 game weeks in a week. So surely something's around the corner.
Let's hope one of them is good.
Exactly. You can actually look forward to watching the football. I think, mate. I mentioned this earlier. You're in the position I'm normally in, where I play something very much on the edge, whereas there's these behind the sofa matches, which you've got everything covered, so you're cool. You can watch all the football, just enjoy it. I'm normally behind the sofa. It feels like our roles are reversed slightly this season at the moment, but I'm sure, mate.
Each week there's the opposite of a garden centre game. There's like a shut yourself in a panic room game, isn't there?
Exactly that. Brilliant.
Shut the world out. Turn off your phone. Yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned earlier. Look at the Hub AI Game Week 13 Wildcard team. Again, you can look at this and put your own discretion over it. But at the moment, Forster, so Vicario, for those who haven't seen, has had an operation on his ankle. Looks like he's going to be out for weeks or months. He's definitely going to miss sort of a minimum of 5-6 game weeks, if not more, as we head into December. He's going to be out for a while. So Fraser Forster is 4.3 million. So he makes the Hub AI team with a non-playing 4 million player there. I'd probably put Fabianski, unless he's risen in price.
Yeah,
maybe.
I'd probably have Fabianski in there. I mean, you're only spending 8.3 there, or has Fabianski gone up?
He might have gone up. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but you're still only spending 8.4 on 2 playing keepers, which is nice.
Defense of Milenkovic, Trent, Gabriel, Gvardiol. I did look and I thought, hang on, has it gone mad? But then when you actually look, so it's benching Gvardiol this week. And then it's got O'Shea. But City's fixtures after this week do improve. They're home to Forest, away to Palace straight away after this week. So hence why it's benching Vardy. But it's got a stacked defence. It's also got a stacked midfield in Salah, Palmer and Saka. It's got Lewis Potter in there for 5 million. It likes the fixtures. Lewis Potter's been getting a lot of minutes at the moment. Home to Leicester this week, which is a superb fixture. Home to Newcastle as well, but obviously you can play with that price point however you want there. And Rodgers currently on the bench, and then a forward 3, hard to argue again, João Pedro, Cunha and Chris Wood. And that's what I mean about what you can do without Haaland. This is absolutely insane. And if you did want to dump Gvardiol or Trent or Gabriel down to a 4.5, you can probably upgrade Lewis Potter to any of the 6.5 midfielders you wanted as well. So much flexibility, Rich.
Interesting. It hasn't gone for one of the sort of mid-range strikers up front to leave an easier path back to Haaland, because if you were going to go for like a Jackson or an Isak or a Watkins, you're going to find it far easier to get yourself 6.5 million through free transfers than if you have to find whatever it is 8 or 9 million with these examples. So that's probably almost saying that the AI is very certain it doesn't want Haaland back.
I think so. It looks up to 5 or 6 game weeks in advance, so maybe it's not quite taken into account game week 18 yet. But it'll be interesting to see how that team performs. It's just amazing the team you can get without Haaland, mate. Just imagine we'd have taken him out. Imagine we hadn't have wildcard. Imagine we'd have wildcarded game week 6 without Haaland, which I think Ben Crellin didn't he, in game week 5? It's absolutely amazing.
Game week 12 was a good week to wildcard, wasn't it? I think generally speaking, people did well last week with it. I haven't seen any bad wildcard scores, so I don't know if anyone has actually got a wildcard left, because really last week was probably last good point to use it before.
I think
You've got to use it before 19, haven't you?
I think last week was a good one. We mentioned last week about there was a couple of players who to get in. João Pedro and Saka were two players who I think we're encouraged if you were wild card and them two. Obviously Salah, Palmer, we know those. But if I was wild carding last week, I think I would definitely have had Cunha, João Pedro, Palmer, Saka, Salah. Maybe Isak, Jackson potentially, but yeah, it would have been a goal fest. But as it was, mate, we spaffed. I nearly said we spaffed it earlier on Haaland in week 6. On to next season.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, thanks for all the chats. Alex says, I'm guessing Wood didn't play because Forest wanted the speed of a Wanye to Arsenal a break potentially, but Bonnie also says Wood came back from New Zealand, so find nothing weird about the benching. That makes sense. I think he scored a hat-trick out there, didn't he? In the week, Wood as well. But yeah, interesting stuff. Thank you. And just a dad posting stuff. 3 game week deadlines in 8 days. Loving this after the barren wastelands of the international breaks. Absolutely for sure. And someone's got Zeet Goal says he's got such a good team. He's gonna bench João Pedro this week, which feels crazy. If you've got that good a team, mate, you should be bench boosting. I'm sorry. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
If your team is that good, bang that bench boost on it. It would be that would be wise. And listen to Ampuan, everybody. Get them likes in. We would really, really appreciate it. If anyone's got any questions in the chat, please feel free to put them in. Have a quick look at the stats ahead of game week 13. A look at the top goals first. Brighton top, and this is what I mean about it being so wide open out of everyone. Brighton predicted to score 2.25 goals against Southampton tomorrow night, the early game. Second, the Spurs at home to Fulham, 2.21. Brentford third, 2.09 against Leicester. So they're not, well, Brighton and Brentford are normally not two teams we're talking about when we come to this part. It's always,
No.
Arsenal and Liverpool and Man City and Spurs and whatever else. But really interesting this week. And in terms of clean sheet potential this week, the top team for expected clean sheet this week, Arsenal have a 67% of a clean sheet chance against West Ham. That is really, really
away to West Ham. They're turning
Ham.
the corner a bit, West Ham, aren't they? So yeah,
Gabriel, let's hope he's fit, mate. That would be a nice one for him there. We should probably hear about that tomorrow, shouldn't we? Man United, 46% chance against Everton. Everton, who just can't buy a goal at the moment. That makes sense. And Forest, home to Ipswich. Forest, who've been absolutely superb this week. This season. 43% chance there as well. So again, not really the teams that we've been talking about most of the season, apart from Arsenal, which makes us for some really interesting decisions this week. This episode, Rich, is focusing on game week 13 and 14. Just before we move on to the captaincies for the next couple of weeks, have you got anything to add on? Because obviously we need to make transfers before this deadline, but also ahead of game week 14. We'll pod again before game week 15. Is there anything ahead of game week 14 which kind of interests you? I know that Brentford's fixtures, for example, I think they now, is it after game week 13? I think they flipped, don't they? So
yeah, there's the end of their good run is now. I mean, I think this is a good week to roll a transfer if you can. Okay. If your team's in really good shape, I've seen some teams this week that look in great shape, certainly a lot better shape than mine, and that their owners are suggesting they roll a transfer, and I think it's a really good idea to do that, even though it might not seem there's a lot to change or a lot to do. The games are going to come so thick and fast, and we're going to get injuries and rotation like we've not seen before, and therefore rolling is good. Certainly, Arsenal's fixtures really start to pick up after the West Ham game. I think could be reasonably high scoring. I mean, they might win that 2-1, or West Ham might get a result there, I think. But when they get back to a home game again, I think you want to be getting your second or third Arsenal players in for that fixture next week, and you'll see a lot of transfers focused in that way when they get onto their game. So really, it's about. I always like to buy simple stuff. I always like to buy a player who's got a home fixture, and so there's quite a lot of teams with 2 home games in the next 3, and I'd be focusing my transfers on those teams rather than teams with 2 aways in the next 3.
Yeah,
Just a simple thing there. There is an opportunity to move off Man City in their slump, and they're 20th on the fixture ticker that we put up earlier. So it is a good week to come off City assets. I mean, Rico Lewis, I think it's just not gone well, has it? And it's not been for the reason that we thought.
No, we thought his minutes would be in question.
He was going to miss games
Exactly.
and he wasn't going to start. He's only not started one
I think
game.
it's one, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So he's getting the starts, but he's just running around a lot and getting no points.
It'd be interesting this week to see if he plays in the 6. Obviously, Rodri and Kovacic are both out. Gundogan was at fault for the first. I don't know if you saw him not running back with Maddison for the first goal, but Gundogan is just, as much as Gundogan is such an incredible player, he doesn't fit that system. He played it. I don't know if you remember. He played him there in the Champions League final, inexplicably ahead of Rodri against Chelsea in 2021, I think it was. And he hadn't played there all season. I don't think he'd ever played in that position for Man City. And he played him there, and City lost. And he played in there last week, and he just doesn't fit. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rico Lewis starts there and Gundogan pushes forward a bit on the weekend against Liverpool.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I'm not even starting Lewis because I've just lost all. I mean, away to Liverpool's about as hard as it gets, right? So it's not.
I have to start him, mate. I've got so many injuries. We'll look at.
Yeah, I know. It's tough, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, Rico Lewis has got to be high on the list of players to move on. You can possibly even save a few quid and move down to one of those 4.5 guys. I would look to do that next week, perhaps, or even this week if Gabriel's ruled out. And yeah, I mean, Brighton, Villa, maybe Ollie Watkins is a good shout if you want a differential and you've got a few quid of the Haaland money left. This is quite like that.
This is the time with these players. I think in fantasy, you mentioned like Isak is now suddenly like tumbleweed. Obviously, João Pedro and Cunha is on everyone's lips now because they performed well last week as well. Someone like Ollie Watkins, especially from Gameweek 14, they're home to Brentford, home to Southampton.
Yeah,
they are fantastic fixtures for Villa. That's the kind of period where when people are looking for differentials, when people are looking to look for those players who are going to make the difference, that's the kind of transfer. Absolutely,
quite like that. I mean, I could look at stick with Mbeumo and just go Vissa to Watkins or something next week, and that's gonna because no one's looking there. He's not appearing on any.
This is it.
Watch list.
But this is the time. He's going to be my Fergie as a punt next week. I think Ollie Watkins. I don't know what his ownership is like actually. Do you know whose ownership really surprised me this week? Danny Welbeck. Have a guess of his ownership, Rich.
Oh, that is going to test me.
It surprised me if that's
18.
It was 21%.
Yeah, not far off.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought it would be more like the sort of 10, 12, but 21% really surprised me.
I thought he was popular early season, wasn't he? Because he scored a couple of early goals and people jump on that bandwagon.
Okay, let's have a look at the best captain this week, and it is tough. Looking at the poll first on Fantasy Football Hub, you can go and vote yourself, as well as looking at everything we've shown today on screen. Salah is top, but only with 29% of the vote. João Pedro is second with 18% of the vote. Palmer third with 15, and Mbeumo fourth with 10. Saka fifth with 8. Then Cunha and Wood. It is incredibly close. And looking at predicted points, Salah is top. 7.5 predicted points against Man City. I'll touch on a stat now, Rich. Palmer second, 7.2. Saka 6.8. Wood 6.7. Sons will be lower, as I said, because we lowered his thing. Haaland, and then Vissa. Interestingly, Vissa is above Mbeumo slightly. Cunha and Isak, they're all hovering around the 6 points.
Yeah, I like Vissa. So I was a bit late getting on him as well, but he got me 13 points as soon as I brought him in.
Nice.
And he's still flying under the radar a bit. And hopefully he's going to bang again at home this weekend for me.
Who would your captaincy pick this be objectively, Rich? Objectively, who do you think is going to score the most points this week, should we say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, objectively, normally you'd look at that City Liverpool fixture, and you'd run away from it, wouldn't you? You wouldn't think.
Absolutely, it would be. You think 0-0,
That
1-1.
would be way. Yeah. Well, whatever. It could be anything. Could be anything.
No, sorry.
We
So
talked
no.
about
Normally, I'm thinking you would think it would be really,
yeah.
really tight. You wouldn't think,
Yeah.
that either would give anything away. But yeah,
No, I mean, Palmer
you think Palmer's the best?
possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, Villa aren't a bad side, are they? They're statistically well ranked Champions League side.
Kept a clean sheet against Juve last night.
Kept a clean sheet. Yeah, exactly. They're not gonna. It's not like a Southampton game. So I mean, Palmer looks like they're probably the most logical premium to pick.
Okay.
This week. I don't think I'll necessarily go for him, but that's just because of a bias.
You want a bit of the Salah action, don't you, mate?
I want a bit of Salah action, mate. I've paid enough for it.
This is the week.
Yeah.
Salah does his hammy and Haaland bangs in a hat trick. This is the week, don't you?
I do. Yeah. If I'm captaining, mate, everybody else needs to run a mile the way my luck's going. So no, I mean, I think Palmer. It is a week to have a swing. If you're well placed and you want to move up, have a swing on anyone in that list could score two. But can you really, when we've got all these premium assets, put the armband on a 5.6 million striker? I don't know. I don't think I've ever done it. That was what stopped people captaining Palmer for the first 2/3 of last season, because they couldn't believe you could get an asset like that for 4.9, right. Could they? Right. And he just continued to do it. So no reason against Southampton that Brighton can't have a great night.
FPL Alex the Kid says Palmer blanked in the 2 Villa fixtures last season. Just a heads up. And Alex VIOLIN, apologies Alex if I've destroyed your surname there. You're quite high on the leaderboard. Is captain and Salah the most sensible thing to be safe? I think so. Yeah, I think he's up there anyway. It's not like he's a bad option, but
I think he will be the most
absolutely
popular.
I think his EO will be about
game.
Sort of like 150%, maybe more than that, won't it? So yeah, good stuff. Just a stat to help with this decision, Rich. Which team in the whole of the league has got and this is a stat from Fantasy Football Hub, which team has got the worst expected goals conceded over the last 3 game weeks in the entire league?
It's not City, is it?
Manchester City. I've got the worst expected goals conceded over the last 3 game weeks.
Wow.
Just if you needed more ammunition to captain Salah. Unbelievable, isn't it, mate?
I mean, almost didn't say that. I thought it can't be.
Well, really. Historically, I think over the last 5 seasons, they've had the best XGC by a stretch for years and years. And these last 3 games, they're bottom of the pile, which is absolutely crazy. So Salah for me, mate. I think so. I just think I don't know. I'm not sure how the game is going to go. I'm not sure if Pep is going to change the way they play. But if they keep playing the way they are playing, and they keep dancing the ball around the edge of that Liverpool box, just side to side to side to side to side, and it's intercepted. And all of a sudden, Liverpool are going to have 3-on-1s, 3-on-2s, like they always do, and Salah just
galloping up
thrives in those situations. So, it'll be mega interesting. Just a quick look at the captaincy ahead of Gameweek 40, which is obviously midweek. Palmer is top on this one, 7.5. So Chelsea are away to Southampton. In that one, Saka is second, home to Man United. Judging by the way United defended last week against Ipswich, and the way Arsenal are playing, the way they played last night, and the way they played against Forest, I think Odegaard being back just puts Arsenal into another bracket at the moment. I think Arsenal and Liverpool are the 2 teams at the moment who are just going to put teams to the sword. So I think that Saka home to Man United, I think Arsenal will give them a good, I'll say a hammering. I think they'll win pretty comfortably, like 3-1, 3-0 or something 3-1. Maybe.
Yeah, I've got a similar feeling.
Haaland home to Forest, but Forest have massively improved defensively. I know they lost last week to Arsenal, but generally they've improved. But Haaland is still up there, 7.3. Salah 7.1. This is where Salah, they're away to Newcastle. Newcastle, who have improved, but obviously lost to Newcastle on Monday night. A bit of an odd result that. I don't think anyone was expecting that one. Were they? Watkins home to Brentford in 14, home to Southampton in 15. So interesting one there. Who's going to be your midweek pick for captaincy, Rich?
Well, I think for the players I own, I think I fancy Palmer in that Southampton game. Possibly more than I fancy Palmer in the one, ironically, the home game against Villa. I think I just fancy, Chelsea to do well against Southampton. Palmer's not been on fire, and my transfer in on Tuesday will probably be Saka. So I might be tempted to captain the new boy. My dilemma will be if Fernandes does well against Everton, because then I'll be tempted to keep him. Having just brought him in, but got to move someone on. But as I am starting to like we've started talking about Watkins as a punt, because I've got to start making some things happen. And it's when you bang with a low-owned player that you can really smash the ranks, isn't it? So some interesting captaincy options over the next two.
I think the Watkins one is interesting me, and it may influence my transfer this week potentially. I'm gonna have a think. We'll talk about our teams now to get the money out. We'll talk about our teams now. Fergie is a punt for game week 13. Rich, I'm not one to brag, but I have been on fire these last few weeks. I'm sorry.
You have, mate.
Vissa,
you have.
Bruno Fernandes, João Pedro, week after week, they have banged in. I was bullish on those three as well. I found it tough this week, I must say, because probably not as straightforward. All the ones we've already mentioned, the Cunha, João Pedro, all these sorts of players are already popular. I did look at Welbeck. All the options are more or less high-ish owned now, so I did kind of struggle to find someone, but I have picked someone up for game week 13. And just in advance, I am going to say ahead of game week 14 and 15, Ollie Watkins, I think, has got, he's, I don't even know what his ownership is, actually. I may have to check his own. I don't know if you want to have a quick check, Rich.
Mostly, well, I'll have a look, mate, while you're talking about
if he's below like 15%, I still think Watkins is a good option there. But for this week, I've gone for someone. It's primarily based on the fixture run. He hasn't had a stellar season so far. But I do think, again, he's low owned. I want to say 6 or 7% owned. Fantastic fixture this week. Scored last week. Again, he's one who could be just on the brink of a really good run. Team has turned around fantastically these last few weeks. They are really playing really good football. Plays alongside João Pedro, the low owned winger, which is Karu Mitoma. Who is home to Southampton this week. They then go away to Fulham, away to Leicester, home to Palace, away to West Ham. They've got a fantastic run of fixtures. In the last 4 games, I say, stats flattered deceive a little bit, but for me, these punts are about getting ahead of the curve, not going for the really obvious ones. We've already done it last week, which is what I try and do. In his last 4 appearances, he only got 1 goal, no assist, 8 shots, 3 on target, 7 shots in the box, only 1 XG. An XA, but like I say, for me, it's about trying to spot these players ahead of their runs, and I think Mitoma could bang this week. I wouldn't pick him ahead of João Pedro, who was my punt last week. No. I still think, but if you're looking for something a bit different, a double up on these two could absolutely reap rewards.
Yeah,
nice.
If you've got the spot, it's lovely.
It is. He's a nice price. We talked earlier about maybe not going for Lewis Potter on the wild card. Mitoma as a 4th or 5th midfielder, for example, could be the one. So I like the look on Mitoma. So
Watkins is 22.3%.
Well, he won't be a differential, mate. I'm quite surprised on that. But
I think a lot lot are people around my rank. They're dead. I was going to say
dead teams who are above both of us, Rich. And if he bangs in those two, we'll fall even further behind. Exactly. If we don't own him. It'll be interesting. But he is my punt for game week 13, Mitoma. Just a reminder before we show our teams and plans for the week about the offer we've got on. It's Green Friday for us. If you want to use the full power of Fantasy Football Hub, award-winning Fantasy Football Hub, you can now do so for a full 30 days free, which includes 5 game weeks worth of features, data, and everything else you want. This includes our famous My Team feature, including recommended transfers, personalized for your own team, predicted points through AI, dedicated WhatsApp groups. So we've got like, I don't even know how many we've got. We've got thousands of people in these WhatsApp groups. The chat is absolutely superb, really good fun if you become a pro member, and so much more, all the different tools and stats and data points and everything you could ever want to do well at FPL. And don't forget, it is all on our app as well, our superb app. You can get live rank, you can get price change, you can get everything you want, and it's all free, 30 days. So join now using the top link below. Promise you will not be disappointed. Don't forget, award winning too. Rich, let's have a look at your team. 92% team rating. Still, I still think your team's in pretty good shape. Really? You got 2.5 million in the bank. Do you want to go through your team and your plans for the week?
Yes. Double Arsenal defence, Raya in goal, and nice. Gabriel, assuming he's fit. That's probably where the good stuff ends. Lewis Hall, I think, will get another game. I think they're away to Palace, is it? Newcastle, are they?
Yes, they are, yeah.
And I will, at the moment, playing Mykolenko ahead of Rico Lewis and Jacob Greaves, who I'm still not sure is fit to start. So, yeah, the defence looks a bit depleted. And if I didn't have other big fish to fry, I would be making a defensive move this week. I'd be selling Rico Lewis down to one of the 4.5 options we mentioned earlier, but that will have to wait as I have already made my 2 remaining transfers. So let's have a look at what the AI would recommend I do. I mean, the rest of my team is fairly good. It's Palmer, Mbeumo, Bruno Fernandes, and at the moment I've got on this graphic I've got Rodgers playing, but I will bench Rodgers. Haaland is still up front. Visser and Cunha both have nice fixtures, so really looking to those guys to return. But yeah, my patience has run out with Haaland. But what does the AI think I should do?
Well, you're optimized, which is the default status. Reckons you should sell Haaland for Chris Wood, and also sell Rodgers for Salah. So the Haaland Salah switcheroony, that's what the optimized, which is the default one, says to do. And in terms of the aggressive one, that's the aggressive one. In terms of, hang on, what have I done here? I think that was the optimized one. The aggressive one says to sell Semenyo for Salah. So this is looking a bit more short. That's why I say aggressive, a bit more short term. Semenyo obviously banned this week, but still Haaland would Semenyo to Salah.
Is there a rage desperation option?
I think, well, aggressive is about it, mate. If you want, though, you can choose custom manager profile and switch everything up as high as you want.
Put the sliders up to crazy levels,
But you can do that. And this is part, just for those who are not Hub members, you get all this and you can customize it as well for free as part of your 30-day trial. Go and have a go.
I could tell you what I actually have done. It's not far off what the aggressive move suggests. I mean, it's so obvious that I did it last night, actually. So I was just waiting for, funnily enough, I almost did it at the weekend, but I thought, Salah has
European
to play
matches,
Madrid,
wasn't there?
Exactly. I waited for him not to get injured at least. So basically, I did bring in Salah finally. I've sold Haaland for João Pedro, which is fairly obvious, and sold Semenyo for Salah. So
I sold Semenyo. Okay, interesting.
I sold Semenyo because he's suspended, and it allows me to bench Rodgers and play a very strong midfield this week. So yeah, I like the team for this week. I've said that before. Should do really well with. I'm
jealous of your team this week.
João Pedro, Cunha, Visser, and then Salah, Bruno, and Mbeumo, Palmer. Yeah, it's a nice 7, isn't it?
They're all at home. They're all at home.
Yeah, all at home.
I think they're all on pens. They're all on pens as well.
For a green arrow, mate.
They're all at home and they're all on.
With that, I think I'll leave.
They're all at home and they're all on pens, and they're all good fixtures. They're all good attacking fixtures. You've got it lined up this week, mate. This is your week. This is your week. If it all goes right. Defense is weak, but I think everyone's is at the moment, so I wouldn't be. And everyone's scoring goals, so I wouldn't be too concerned. No, I'm very jealous of you there, mate. You're looking good.
Thanks, man.
A quick look at my team. I've got Flecken in goal this week. I think it's fine for this week, but I say Brentford's fixtures do turn next week, so I'm a bit concerned what to do there. Gabriel and Norrie. I've got Lewis. I've got Gabriel, who might be a risk. I've got Lewis, who may or may not play. I think he probably will play. I got Anderson, who I picked up last week, but he's I think he's had a knock. And I've got Greaves as well, so I might only have potentially up to one play-in player defender this week, Rich. It ain't Norrie, because I've got Gabriel, Lewis, Anderson, and Greaves, who between them might not play or drop. But still, as ridiculous as it sounds, I'm not interested in defence because it's just not where the points are this season. I just don't see the point in spending transfers in defence. So I'm probably going to just let the gods do their thing.
If they're red flagged, I mean, I'm second guessing whether Lewis will start or not. I think it's probably 75% likely to start that game, just because City haven't really got any other options. Walker looks like he's lost a yard of pace, which you could argue that they would play Walker at right back for his pace. But he may not play Walker. Walker's not playing very well, is he? So, Lewis could start in defence again, or Lewis could start in the pivot.
I think. Well, I'm gonna have to play Lewis anyway. I think. You just never know in these. I mean, it's such a. It's one of those things. Those who started Porro last week could never have dreamt of a 15-pointer or wherever he got. Never have dreamt of it, or 14-pointer. It's just.
Well, I could try to lose my sleeper match from a very strong position because I benched Porro away to City. And that caused me to lose my sleeper match. But there we are. Your bench. You've got some flags there, haven't you, mate?
I've got a lot of flags.
You have to look at one presser on the Anderson situation.
Yeah, I'm not touching the defence anyway, though, Rich. I'm not using transfer in defence. It's just not where the points are. Only one. I'm thinking of taking a hit. So I've got Salah, Palmer, and Buemo and Rodgers, and I've got Wood, Haaland, and Raul Jimenez. So I've got you've got your Visser and Cunha ahead of my Wood and Jimenez, which so far has gone your way on for the last 2 or 3 weeks anyway. I'm hoping Wood and Raul do the biz. Like Fulham is the kind of team that Spurs, now they've beaten Man City twice, and Villa, battered Villa and City, and then lose to Palace and Ipswich. They're probably going to lose at home now to Fulham. Spurs are so yeah. But I've got no money in the bank. So my dilemma, I'm pretty set. I'd like to do Haaland to João Pedro, which releases nearly 10 million.
10 million quid in the bank. You can buy another premium with the change, mate.
Well, this is the thing, right? So I can do that for free. It does mean I'll have to play Rodgers, and I may not end up having 11 out. So I am tempted to take a -4 and just go straight from Semenyo to Saka with the change.
Yeah, I think that, and then you can bench Rodgers. Yeah, I think that's worth a -4. I think it's worth a -4.
I think so. And I can bench Rodgers then.
I mean, we're going to end up with similar teams, but I think it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, everyone's going to end up with similar teams in the next few weeks.
I don't like taking a hit, but on the same note, if one of those front seven misses out, it's 0 points. So, interesting question from John in the chat. John Thomas asked, "Lads, how do I lose my virginity?" And Column says, "John, whatever you do, don't tell her you play FPL." I tell you what you need to do. Just go up to her, whisper in her ear, "I sold Haaland 4 game weeks ago for Salah, and I brought in Cunha and João Pedro. And mate, you are laid. Sorry, you are absolutely laid, John Thomas. Enjoy your night. Have a good one." But yeah, that's my thoughts anyway. First hit all season, I think. Yeah. But I mean,
how much have you got? Nothing in the bank. Yeah, I can't.
And then what it does for me then, mate, it also gives me enough flexibility to potentially move Chris Wood on to Watkins next game week.
Following week.
Next game week. But it also gives me flexibility, because even then I'll still have a lot of change to I've still got flexibility to get back to Haaland with 2 moves from Salah or Palmer or Saka.
But you're one of the few FPL managers here who's got what is unofficially described as the Holy Trinity, isn't it? You've got the three most expensive players, Palmer, Haaland, Salah.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to get to a structure where you have that. So you haven't got to mess about getting Haaland back if you hang on to him. We spent half this show talking about Haaland's statistics. I'm only trying to give you the different perspectives.
Mate, and you're absolutely right. But those alternative forwards, I mean, it's just I thoroughly expect João Pedro, Chris Wood, Cunha, and one or two others to outscore Haaland this week. I do. Visser. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Perhaps
my recommended transfers. It actually recommends me to save this week. That's on the optimized. Which if you think about it, do Haaland out is my banker transfer. But yeah, it's saying save, so that makes sense. And then my aggressive one, it's not very aggressive, but it says Lewis to Milenkovic. It's just saying hold on to Haaland because he's still predicted, because of his underlying data is still so good, he's still predicted to score well. So, but no, I want Saka.
My temptation to sell Haaland was really because it's out of just reaching the end of that fear of not owning Salah. I just had to change it. I should have changed it weeks ago. I know that, but I just reached the end of my tether with it and I had to move it. So if I had them both, I would still be tempted to keep if I was coaching you. I really would.
Manon in the chat is saying I would roll as well.
I don't know what they are. Ask the chat. To chat.
Well, Manon says I would roll.
Do you think Fergie should keep Haaland because he has Salah already, or do you think he should sell? It'd be interesting to see what the chat.
Because what else I could do? I could do Jimenez to João Pedro this week. But then I'm kind of stuck if I want to go up to Watkins. But I don't think Watkins that is urgent. That's the other move I could do. Jimenez straight. Oh, Forza is saying roll as well. Oh, come on. Don't do this now.
Okay. I thought they would, you see. Yeah, I thought they would. Because look, Haaland is a source of funds for you. Yeah. You're going to want Saka or you're going to want Watkins. So you're going to want another kind of premium-ish player here. But with 2 transfers next week, you can do that for free. You don't have to hit it. So you're 4 points up on the deal already. And you've got Haaland as something as a differential against Liverpool.
I cannot have João Pedro this week.
That sounds like the Hwang decision.
It is. But mate, I can't watch it. I'll be sick. If I don't bring in João Pedro this week and he goes and bangs in a couple of goals, sell Wood.
Well,
Wood's got Ipswich. He's home to Ipswich. Oh, it does to me, mate. Wood is legend. Oh, I think I can't do that.
Jimenez for João Pedro.
I could do that.
Do that.
Yeah, but then I haven't got the 2 transfers next week. I'll still have to take a hit next week.
Yeah, do Jimenez to João Pedro. That's better than the hit. If your driver is wanting João Pedro, have Haaland against Liverpool. Would it surprise anyone if City?
You need to lean into the mic, mate.
Would it surprise anyone if City won that game on Sunday and Haaland scored? It wouldn't surprise anyone at all. Haaland scored maybe twice as well. It wouldn't surprise anyone if that happened. It could be a good game. City win it 2-1. You've kept Haaland. No one else owns him in the community. You've got João Pedro for Jimenez for free. And you're laughing.
That I might do that. I might do that, but I can't get to Saka then. I'd be taking a hit next week for Saka. I'm not too bothered about Saka this week, but next week, I don't know, mate. You've confused me now. I need to really put some thought into this. Okay, we will see where we are come tomorrow.
Fergie, you need Luca Dean.
I need Luca Dean. Yeah, indeed.
Remember you tipped him. You tipped him last week, and he didn't start. Do you remember when I was saying he's the biggest troll in FPL history, and he didn't start? I think Andrew Savage said to send you a message about Luca Dean.
Yes, indeed, he loves it. Colin Bugler's advice to John, who was on about the virginity stuff, is John, just be yourself. She doesn't like you, then she's not the one. That's more sensible than whispering FPL forwards in her ear. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that is it from us for this week. Thank you so much for everyone who joined in the chat. We really, really appreciate it. Those who will watch it back and those listening on the podcast version, your support, as usual, is very, very much appreciated. Rich, thank you so much. Tough for you to come on each week at the moment, mate. I know the feeling. Don't worry.
It is.
It is hard.
This has been wonderful therapy for an hour.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Really, really pleased to have helped me. And thanks in the chat as well for all the good fun interaction as well. It does really, really help. Where can people get hold of you, Rich?
At Rich Clarke FPL on Twitter.
And on Blue Sky as well, don't forget.
And on Blue Sky, yes, I'm on there as well now. Yeah.
Mine is at FFH_Fergie. Make sure you drop us both a follow. And don't forget the hub as well, at FFH_HQ. This podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watched, please press a like button. We'd really appreciate it if you did. Remember to subscribe to the channel at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen if you haven't already. And if you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast. Give us 5 stars and leave a comment. We would really, really appreciate hearing from you. We will be back next week to preview game week 15. Bullsaroo, Balesaroo, Rich is the GOAT, regardless of this season's rank. There you are, mate. You can take that to bed with you tonight, mate. Don't worry about that.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate the support.
In the meantime, we hope you have a fantastic, what is it? I think it's 7 days of football and 8 days or 6 and 7, something crazy.
Mad.
We have a fantastic game week 13, fantastic game week 14 in the midweek, and we will be back just before the Thursday night games next week. I think it might be Brighton, actually. We may have to look at those, Rich. We may have to make a decision. I think so.
Yeah, we'll have to look at the timing there.
Be interesting if we went on beforehand.
I think they're all on TV in the UK. They're all on TV, aren't they? It's an Amazon week or something.
Goodness me, it's going to be crazy.
So they're all on TV. Yeah.
But anyway,
all right.
Enjoy it all.
Good luck, everybody.
And may all your arrows be green. Good night, all.